Thanks for joining us in another video from Collective Property Investments. Today we'll be discussing our business structure and exit strategies, regulations driving our business reporting, the legalities around property ownership, and finally our revenue model. In case you missed our previous presentations, very briefly, Collective Property Investments is a new platform whereby our company seeks out property investors to invest in a portion of specific property. In doing so, we are enabling the greater population access to one of Australia's highest yield yet lowest risk investment markets, without the large capital usually associated with purchasing a property outright. Now let's speak about regulations related to collective property investments work. The main document which governs CPI work is the Corporations Act 2001. According to the Corporations Act, CPI must have an Australian Financial Services Licence or work as an authorised representative of an Australian financial service licensee. Moreover, Corporations Act 2001 sets some regulations in terms of disclosure of information. Those regulations are well explained in the ASIC Regulatory Guide 46. According to it, there are 6 benchmarks and 8 disclosure principles to comply with. Benchmarks set that CPI must have, maintain, and comply with include the following policies relating to gearing, interest cover, interest capitalisation, valuation, related party transactions, and distribution practices policy. In addition to this, disclosure principles require regular publication of information on the following topics: gearing ratio, interest cover ratio, scheme borrowing, portfolio diversification, related party transactions, distribution practices, withdrawing from the scheme, and net tangible assets. We chose to establish a proprietary company where our board of directors manage different departments as outlined in our structure. These include the legal and finance department, risk management, strata management, and finally operational team. Our funding model has 2 stages. Firstly, our MVP, where we rely on self-funding to launch our website and gather the expressions of interest from our prospective clients. The second stage is delivering our product. Such process requires a large amount of funding, so we'll raise the capital required either through crowdfunding or angel investors. For our exit strategy, 3 plans have been discussed depending on our business progression. Merger and acquisition, whereby we either merge or be bought out by a similar functioning investment company. Initial public offering, where we try to float our company in the Australian stock market, or finally investigate further investment opportunities initiated by external business people. Property ownership laws differ slightly from state to state within Australia. However, the basic overarching details about who or the type of entity that can own a property are very much the same. When investing in collective property investments, you are committing your allocated amount towards a specific property. Your equity remains allocated in that same property until you sell your share to another willing investor, or the property is sold at the decision of a proportion vote by the collective owners. The property is purchased by CPI as the holding company, with each investor signed as a guarantor for their committed amount, which allows us to comply with Australian property ownership laws similar to trust ownership, with the invested money being held in a very tangible product, which has proven growth for more than 50 years. The users of this new investment platform can be reassured in its security. As new properties are listed on the market for sale or development companies publicise new off-the-plan projects, our analysts will shortlist what we see as the most promising and appropriate investment opportunities for our clientele. With the shortlisted properties, CPI will engage an independent property analyst consultant to prepare a thorough report for our investors. This keeps any advice provided for the specific property separate from the holding company, which is an important distinction when functioning in such a scheme under current Australian property law. The properties held by CPI will be managed in-house by our team of registered management real estate agents. This allows us to have full control over ensuring your property is being taken care of to the highest standards, and again complying with the state's laws around property management. CPI revenue is generated from willing investors committing an amount towards a specific property of their choice. We have nominated a minimum of $1,000 to make an investment worthwhile for both our clients and us as a business. The contract period for each investment is 5 years from the date of purchasing the property. The initial outlay from CPI will include asset transaction fees associated with property ownership, advertising, insurance, and legal fees, as well as professional costs in establishing a working team. For these investments, CPI take a fixed price fee for the initial investment establishment as well as an ongoing property management, and finally a small percentage from the capital growth when each individual property is sold. Ongoing cash flow is generated from rental return on the properties. With any investment scheme, there are significant financial risks associated for which CPI has put a lot of effort into minimising. For investors, the attractions include a high yield investment opportunity on a low risk asset, while offering flexibility in the investment amount not yet seen before in this industry. The internal risks for CPI as a company include the capital investment scale and depths, though in a physical product such as property, this becomes a very acceptable aspect of the business. The legalities of the scheme also provide some risk, given others do not yet exist in this industry. And finally, the sheer amount of customer volume CPI will be dealing with. External to the business, CPI will be facing risks associated with market fluctuations both in property value as well as the rental market. To overcome this, we will seek to diversify our portfolio, investing in hedging strategies with insurance agencies and develop high cash flow with our rental returns. The returns on property investment have never been so attractive. In Sydney, the median house price has more than quadrupled in the past 20 years, while apartments have tripled. In Melbourne, in the past 10 years alone, investors have seen the median price of both houses and units double. On behalf of CPI, we thank you for your time. Don't forget to visit our website on your screen now or get in contact with us directly on collectivepropertyinvestments@gmail.com.